scoot in a little bit. We'll have some more coming. So this is a good spot to kind of look around too. You can see we were talking about with the facades that were put up in primarily the late 50s through the 60s, where see this one with the colored dots on it, holding up the tiles. A couple of those fell down a few years ago, and they revealed really beautiful brickwork there. We have John Roop with us somewhere. There he is right there, who's been an advocate for that smaller building between the two green ones, which was the Expositor newspaper. And through John's investigations, he discovered that's the oldest building in downtown. So, you know, it's a shame. Again, an out-of-town property owner bought it because it was cheap and really hasn't put anything into it yet. We did have some volunteers remove some of the interior plaster, wallboard, whatever, so that we could see the condition of the brick. But so far, that's about all that's been done. So if you imagine those buildings on either side behind the tree there, having their facades come down, having their fronts restored, having the windows re-exposed, and then those spaces being filled with either lofts or, say, workspace for people to do technology or creative professions or whatever, then you have more people down here on a more consistent basis, and they shop and eat and drink down here and have fun and hang out. And they provide more liveliness on the sidewalk. So as we have more people come downtown and live downtown especially, they become more valuable to the downtown economy because they spend more of their money down here, but also because you see people not just 9 to 5, but you see people out in the morning and out in the evening, and that's ultimately how we gauge a successful downtown. Not that it's a 9 to 5 powerhouse and then dead, but that we have a downtown where you're going at night because that's where the fun is, right? That's when you think of the downtowns you visit. You know, if you show up at 8 o'clock on Saturday night and everything's closed, you say this place is dead, right? If you have to wait in line to get into some of the restaurants, you go, man, this place is hopping. So that's ultimately the measurement that we want to use. Mariposa Plaza, which is behind where the vendor cart is not part of this construction, and will hopefully receive money through cap and trade or other variety of sources. It already got one NEA, National Endowment for the Arts grant, to incorporate some usable public art, some interactive public art. Is that the best way to say it?
Yeah, actually, well, we've been talking about this lately. So there's actually going to be a call for artists going out probably this week.
Oh.
For artists to come and design public art that goes in here. And sort of what the latest talk is, we know that we need a shade structure here, and so kind of directing the artists to think about how to do a shade structure that is also artistic and brings the space to life. And ultimately, part of the grant that has been received is to sort of redesign this parcel. This parcel used to be the site of the Grand Central Hotel back in the day, and that's why it's not part of the street. It's a parcel. And there's a stage right behind this van that gets full sun. People don't like standing in front of it when it's really hot. So the idea is to put the stage back sort of against the alley, put in some trees along the sidewalk here, which are nice seating spaces kind of any day off the sidewalk, on the sidewalk, and then serve as a better place to enjoy a show that would be at the site.
Is there any discussion about murals or public art in that respect?
Not murals so much. I mean, if you think about this wall, it kind of ties into Craig's conversation about activating these upper stories, especially if this is a space where there's performance going on. How cool would it be to have, a balcony seat overlooking that? So, maybe not a mural on that wall, right?
Right, yeah, so there is an upstairs there as well. So those can become apartments or Airbnb rooms or offices or whatever. And it could be a variety of uses. But again, that becomes a pretty cool place to have that space if every weekend there are a variety of festivals happening down here and you like being in the middle of the action. And there are people that like that, right? So it's also fun to think about. Some people want to be in the action 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Some of us like to visit every once in a while, and then other people in the middle. So, there aren't that many spaces here. So on this block, let's just say there are average of 4 lofts per space. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 maybe. So we're talking about 32 lofts. That's not a ton, right? So in our region of 1.7 million people that live within a 45-minute drive up here, are there 32 people that would think it'd be really cool to have a loft in one of these upstairs spaces? Does anyone here think it'd be cool to have a loft in one of these upstairs spaces, right? So, there's probably a little bit more downtown focused group, but this doesn't take that many. So we know as a test of the market that there are a couple of floors, 3 floors up here that have been converted to lofts and they're all filled. So, and there's a waiting list to get in. So we know that there are enough people that like that lifestyle. We can also look at other cities and see that that's a desirable lifestyle for a lot of people. So we would assume that it would be desirable here too. So as that market continues to be proven by the Granville lofts and other things that people here also like an urban lifestyle, it will make it easier to finance some of these projects. So then this is Mariposa Street, and Mariposa Street will have the front door of high-speed rail on that side at 8th Street looking this way. And if you've been over to the other side, you can see the Greyhound station has been torn down and relocated by Amtrak, which makes sense because you can get off the train and onto the bus or vice versa. The clock tower is going to be moved over to this corner, sort of by where this rebar is sitting up. So we tried a variety of ways to see if we could do a roundabout or elevate it or something, but there was nothing that the traffic engineering consultants felt that we could do that would be safe because it blocks the view across for cars and pedestrians and all of that. So ultimately it gets moved to the corner. Also the Renoir that has been over here that was sort of hidden behind the shrubs will be moved out to this corner where Payless Shoes is currently. So it's also interesting, if you've been down here much, there were these big planters around the Pacific Southwest building here that sort of was like taking a really beautiful 1920s building and putting a really ugly 60s kind of concrete planter around it. It was really one of the places where I think the designs did not mesh together very well. So it's nice to see that come down. You can see the work has had to be done around the basement, which, like a lot of the bigger building basements, actually go out further than the base of the building. They went under the sidewalk, so there are leaks and other things into all these basements, so that had to be repaired by the private property owner, and then the new sidewalk will go on top. But you're starting to really be able to see how wide these sidewalks are. So one of Elliot's primary exhibits of brilliance was our difficulty in knowing how to fit all these different uses that we want to happen onto one place. And one of the things people wanted was to save as many of the mature trees as possible for shade and beauty. And we also knew we needed the artwork and the sculptures to be restored and replaced. So it just wasn't working, so Elliot said, instead of having the street right down the middle, why don't we just move it off to one side? And we'd never heard of a city that had done that before, so it seems simple in hindsight, but it was really cutting edge urban design. So what you will notice is that the sidewalk on the east side is 28 feet wide, which is enormous. A normal downtown sidewalk might be 9 to 11 feet. And on the west side, it will be 14 feet. So even the narrow side is wider than a normal downtown sidewalk. And this side is abnormally large, but it saves those Chinese elms, which will provide some shade, and gives us a side where we can put the sculptures and fountains and still have room for pedestrians. So it's down the middle and you had fountains, then there wasn't room for pedestrians, and it became very claustrophobic. And part of our plan is to have enough room to be able to also have a lot of outdoor dining. So we need room for all those different things to happen. So this is the wider side, so this will have more outdoor dining, but it'll also have more sculptures and fountains using space. So I don't think there's necessarily a good side or a bad side to it. They're just a little different, but they both have their potential strengths.
There is a reason why it's offset to the west instead of the east.
The trees.
No, the other reason is, so in the afternoon the sun's in the
Oh,
west.
yeah.
And if you're walking on the western sidewalk, the buildings are going to shade you. So it was more important to keep bigger and more trees on the east side to shade the eastern sidewalk.
Yeah, so by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, even in the dead of summer, the western side is already in shade. Another feature of the new design will be that it has a great layout for closing the street. So we have, we call ballards, what the rest of us would call small posts that you could easily back up over. But they're like, I don't know, 3.5 feet maybe. So at every block, there will be removable ballards that we can screw in and close the street off for events. So we can just close this middle block, or we can close the entire thing for a huge festival. Elliot also did some layout work to show how many booths that we could get. What are there, 200? So, yeah, about 200 booths for festivals during events, and they're already laid out. So as soon as we have a street, we can start closing it for events and then reopening it to normal traffic. And again, just like the hybrid between having pedestrian space and car space really works, having that flexibility, being able to close a street is good. You just don't want it closed 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You want it closed when you have so many people that it doesn't really make sense to have cars coming through, and then you reopen it on Monday morning and people can go to the bank or hair salon or whatever it is they want to do downtown.
Hey, Craig,
Yes,
can you just give a quick overview about this building right here?
the Mason building. There is nothing planned for that one that I'm aware of. There's a podiatrist and a former Israeli aircraft pilot from Beverly Hills, and they bought the JCPenney building and the Bank of Italy building and the Mason building, and really have done nothing to it. So we did find new buyers for the JCPenney building and the Bank of Italy building, but we haven't found a new buyer for this. They did something kind of goofy to this building that's going to make it more difficult. You know, the primary economic driver in a downtown is the ground floor retail. That's where the highest rent is, the highest activity, all of that. What goes on up above is sort of a bonus. The former owner of this building separated it legally, made a condo out of it. So the ground floor is owned separately from the upstairs.
Whoa.
Yeah. So normally you'd buy this building because you had this strong retail potential, and then eventually you'd get some office tenants or whatever in here that aren't going to pay as much rent, but it's all good. Now you have an owner that's just stuck with the less rent producing, more expensive renovation, and the guy that will make all the money is the ground floor piece. So that was an unfortunate thing that's going to really hamper that development, where you have JCPenney and Bank of Italy, where when downtown starts going and we get a really, you know, booming, fantastic restaurant in the Bank of Italy building paying $2 a foot in rent, then it will start justifying them spending the money to repair the tower.
Is the name of Mason, is that connected with the Masons or?
No, I don't remember that one. I know it's not from the Masons, but I believe it's connected to a name. I'm positive it's a name. I just don't remember who it is. Yeah, John, do you know?
He's behind.
You know who Mason is? Was?
I think it's from San Francisco, and his daughter inherited it.
Okay.
She was like a lord or something.
So it's not a Fresno family like Helm or...
No, I think he lived here and he helped with the irrigation or something.
Okay.
Connected to Mason Street, by any chance, in San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but they were from San Francisco.
There you go. See, we have resources right in our group.
And what year was this one built?
I don't remember that either. 15? Yeah, so 15, that makes it really early. This is 11, I believe. 15, and then 17 is when that one, the Bank of Italy, opened. And then the rest were all built pretty much in the mid-20s. All right, let's...